live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show.
Welcome to the FTN Bets Cast for Wednesday, August 3rd here at FTN Bets and sponsored by our friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players, and now you can win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game as well. It's very easy to play. So first, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like and pick whether they're going to go over or under their listed total. So for example, tonight in baseball, it could be something like the number of hits a player gets, maybe the number of runs he scores, maybe the number of strikeouts that a pitcher has. Then you're going to choose an amount of money that you want to enter into the contest. And if you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money if you go 5 out of 5 and get them all right. But the main reason why I'm excited about this new over-under game on Sleeper, it's the only app where I can join in my buddy's contest and we could all play together. It has a built-in group chat where I can see what you're playing, you can see what I'm playing, and we could all see what the guy who's won 3 days in a row is playing. And it's insanely fun when everybody's riding it out together and rooting for the same things to happen. So stop what you're doing now, download the Sleeper app to play in their new over-under game, have some fun with your friends, and make a little bit of money in the process. On your mobile phone, you can join our listener group on Sleeper at sleeper.com/FTNBets, and Sleeper will automatically match that first deposit you make up to $100. So again, go down to the description of this podcast, sleeper.com/FTNBets, and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. There are terms and conditions that apply, so see Sleeper's terms of use for details. We're going to keep things rolling here today on our NFL team betting previews. We're going to stay in the NFC North. We talked about the Green Bay Packers. We talked about the Minnesota Vikings. Today, we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions. Last year, the Detroit Lions were 3-13-1. Not a very good situation for them. They traded their starting quarterback to the Rams for Jared Goff. He went on to win, Matt Stafford being he, went on to win a Super Bowl. Jared Goff went on to lead this team to 3 wins and 1 tie throughout the season. Jeff Ratcliffe, though, has them projected for 7 wins this year, which is a big jump from 3-13-1 last season. The number a lot of the books have this at, the consensus number out there in the market, is 6.5 wins for the Detroit Lions. So we do shade to the over there. DraftKings has the best price on the over 6.5 wins at -115. It's -120 to -125 at a lot of the other books there. So even the books and the bettors at this moment are basically projecting the Lions to get over 6.5 wins. That's the way that they're looking at it, at -120, -125. You're looking at like a 53-54% chance of them getting over 6.5 wins to get the 7 or more here. So very interesting jump that the Lions should be able to take this year. It almost seems like people expected them to underperform last year. And this year they are better. Let me say it that way. They are better. They do have more skill position players out there. The defense got a little bit better as well. Now, again, were these low bars? Yeah, absolutely. They were low bars for them to get over. But the fact that they have improved on them means that they should improve this year, and you should see that in the record. Now, whether or not we will, that's why they play the games. We're going to have to see how that all turns out. But there are things that are pointing up in the right direction for the Detroit Lions there. And shout out to my boy Quan, because I know he's a big Lions fan there. So hopefully things work out for our main man, DeQuan Young, our executive producer over here at FTN. So let's see. What do we want to talk about next? The Detroit Lions to win the NFC North, plus 1,000, 10-1 odds. DraftKings has them there at 10-1. That's the best price on the Lions to win the North. 8.5 to 9 is what you're getting at a lot of the other books. So 8.5 to 1, 9 to 1 is what you can get other places. DraftKings at 10-1 has the best number there. Now, remember, the Green Bay Packers are a big favorite to win this division. The Minnesota Vikings are a little bit behind them, but a massive step ahead of the teams like the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions, who are slated to be 3rd and 4th in this division this year. For the Detroit Lions to win the entire NFC, again, if they're 10-1 to win the NFC North, it's not like we're going to expect them to do much here and win the NFC or win the Super Bowl. So these are going to be big numbers. Are they big enough to bet on them? Probably not, but, I'm going to give them to you anyway in case you do want to put some money down on the Lions. The Lions to win the NFC is 60 to 1 here, plus 6,000. You can get that number at DraftKings and Caesars, 45 to 50 to 1 at some of the other books out there. So again, you are getting some value on it, with that being said, it's only value if you really think they can win the NFC. And I don't really think they can win the NFC. I don't think the offense is good enough. I don't think the defense is good enough. They would need a major, major step forward from a 3-13-1 season. And I don't think they got enough of those guys in the offseason. Heck, their top draft pick is a wide receiver who's probably not even going to play for the first couple games of the season. So again, they did make some moves. They did get some free agents in, but I don't see them being the team that gets there from the NFC, which is going to make it tough for them to win the Super Bowl as well. If we don't think they can win the NFC, the Super Bowl, the Lions, 150-1 plus 15,000 is the best number you can get there. That's over on DraftKings. A lot of the other books have them at 100-1 or 125-1. So DraftKings definitely the best payout at 150-1. But again, you only get the payout if they actually win the Super Bowl. And there's just nothing here that I see. I don't even think they have a 1% chance. So I don't think this is an overvalued number at all. I just don't see the Lions being a team that's going to be able to get it done this year. So even at 150-1, probably not something that we want to be putting any money on here. Let's see. Will the Lions make the playoffs? I guess that's the next thing we can talk about here. Will they make the playoffs? Yes is paying plus 410 on FanDuel. It's plus 350 to plus 400 on most of the other books. So to get it at plus 410 on FanDuel is the best price out there in the market. But again, it would take a massive jump for them to make the playoffs. The average playoff team last year, everybody who had 10 wins made the playoffs. A couple of the teams with 9 wins did. A couple of the teams with 9 wins didn't. So they would need to jump not only from 3 to the 7 that they're being projected at this year, but they would have to get to at least 9 even to be in the conversation, and probably 10 to feel safe about them making the playoffs. I don't see this as a team that's going to improve by 7 wins this year. I can't figure how that would happen. So again, I know it's a nice number at plus 410, but it's a nice number for a reason because it's very unlikely to happen. At plus 410, they're giving them less than a 20% chance to make the playoffs. And honestly, even at close to 20%, I think that's probably high. So let's see. What's the best number we can get on no? No, the Lions will not make the playoffs. Minus 455 on Bet Rivers and Sugar House is the best number you can get for the Lions will not make the playoffs. So, again, you'd have to lay $455 to win $100. If you bet $100 on it, you're going to win like $20, probably even less than that, actually. So again, if you want to lock your money up for 5-6 months until the end of the season to win, $20, be my guest. You're very likely to cash that bet. It's just not something that I'm going to be doing, not something that I'm going to be putting my money on there. I will say this, though. It is a pretty good number because FanDuel has this at minus 600, I think is where it is for FanDuel. So, minus 455 on Bet Rivers and Sugar House. Again, not the worst number in the world here, but, again, you're not going to get rich betting it. And you're going to have to wait a really long time for this to pay off. So I just think there are better places for you to put your money, better things for you to invest your money in than a long-term Lions not making the playoff ticket, although it is very likely to be a winner. With that being said, let's move on and talk about some of the player props here for the Detroit Lions. And we're going to start where we always start here at quarterback with Jared Goff. Now, again, I'm only going to talk to you guys about stuff that I think is interesting. So, yes, there is a Jared Goff MVP number. I don't know. It's like 200-1 or something like that. I don't think he's got a chance to win it, so we're not going to talk about it. Jared Goff, Offensive Player of the Year, Jared Goff to lead the league in passing, Jared Goff to have the most passing touchdowns. None of this stuff is things that I think are likely to happen, so we're just going to kind of skip over them. What we will talk about, though, are some of the yardage props and things like that with Jared Goff this year. So passing yards for Jared Goff, 3,600 is the number over on FanDuel. Now, again, in a 17-game season, you're really only talking about like 210, 215 yards. And they do have some weapons, right? You look at a guy like DeAndre Swift, very good receiving running back out of the backfield. Even Jamal Williams, his backup, is a guy who has been known to be a good pass catcher. So that's a positive for a quarterback's passing yards. You have a stud tight end in TJ Hawkinson. Again, he's been up and down in his career, but this is a guy that most people would consider to be an above average receiving tight end. So, again, that's another weapon for him. Amon-Ra St. Brown at the end of last year. This guy was amazing. He was a top 10 wide receiver down the end of the season. Massive target share, was racking up the yards, was finding the end zone. You add in DJ Shark as well this year, another guy who is coming off of an injury, but again, they got him on a pretty discounted price. He's on one of those kind of, prove it deals that he has out there. And this guy has been a productive NFL receiver when he's healthy and he's able to be out there. It's not a matter of his talent. It was just a matter of whether or not he was healthy. Last year, he wasn't healthy. That's going to affect the guy's production. Obviously this year, he's supposed to be healthy. That's going to be a big boost for this Detroit Lions team. They also have a first-round rookie who arguably might have been the best receiver coming out of college last year in Jameson Williams. He's going to miss a couple games as he recovers from an injury, but by midseason, he's going to be back there as well. Now, all of a sudden, you look at this team and it's like, hey, I know Jared Goff's the quarterback and people don't really love him, but you have legitimate weapons on this team now for the Detroit Lions. So if I'm a Detroit Lions fan, I would be pretty happy about the future. Now, again, is that all going to click this year? A lot of these guys are young, so I can't promise you that it's all going to click this year, but they do have the players in there where they can make some noise in the future. So 3,600 yards is the number for Jared Goff. I do like the over here. FanDuel over -112 is the best place to play that. It's the lowest number that you're getting and the best payout that you can get on it at -112. So if you want to play the Jared Goff over in passing yards, FanDuel -112, 3,600 yards is the best place to play it. DraftKings has this at 3,700 yards. The over is +105. The under is -125, which is interesting because BetMGM has it at 3,850 yards, -115 to the over and the under. So you can get a +105 if you take 3,700 yards on DraftKings. And if you want to take the under 3,700 yards on DraftKings, it's -125 it's juiced up for. Yet the under on MGM at 3,850 is only -115. So if you're going to play the under on Jared Goff, the place you want to go to play the under is going to be BetMGM. You get a much higher number, 3,850 yards, which is 250 yards above the number that FanDuel has. And the payout is -115. At 3,700 yards on DraftKings, the payout is -125. So you're getting a higher number with a better payout by going over to BetMGM. So again, if you want to play the over on Goff, you go to FanDuel, 3,600 yards there, -112, best number you can get. But if you want to play the under, which I think is the one that's more likely here, the under is 3,850 yards on BetMGM at a -115. That is the best price you can get for playing the under on Jared Goff, which I think is something that we should be looking at and maybe putting some money into as well. Because again, there's a chance that this guy doesn't finish the year as the starting quarterback here. There's a chance that he could get hurt as well. And maybe that's the reason. There's a chance he could get benched. So again, not that I think it's the most likely scenario to happen, but these are things you have to factor in when you're looking for these season-long numbers. Remember, 2/3 of all these season-long numbers tend to come to the under. So the under is the place you want to be, especially if you don't have a lot of faith in them. And honestly, I don't think there's a lot of people out there that have a ton of faith in the upside that Jared Goff can offer. So let's talk about the next number. Touchdowns, 22.5 over, -112 on FanDuel. That's the best place you can play the over for his touchdown number. I actually do think they have a pretty explosive offense that is going to be trailing in a lot of games and is going to be able to put up some touchdowns. But again, you need Jared Goff to stay healthy and play all 17 games here. You need him to throw for about 1.5 touchdowns a game. I think he can do that if he stays healthy throughout the entire year. But again, that means he has to stay healthy. The team has to be winning enough that they keep him as the starting quarterback. His receivers have to stay healthy. The line has to be able to block for him. There's a lot of things that are question marks in here. And whenever there's a lot of question marks, I always think the under is better. Now, if you want to play the under, though, again, FanDuel has this at 22.5 touchdowns, -112 to the over and the under. You can get it at 23.5 touchdowns on DraftKings with the under being -110. So that's the best place that you can play the under if you want to go. Go to DraftKings, -110, under 23.5. You're getting a better payout and a higher number over on DraftKings. That's why you want to play it over there. So Jared Goff under 23.5 touchdown passes, -110 on DraftKings. Another one I think we can look at there. And then the last one, I didn't put a bet on either side of it, but this would be one of the few Jared Goff things I would play the over on, and that's Jared Goff interceptions. 11.5 is the number of interceptions for Jared Goff this year. Goff's the kind of guy that if things start going bad, he falls in the quicksand. And what I mean by quicksand is, as things start going bad, he starts playing worse and worse. If the running game's working, if the team is playing well, if he's getting safe throws and play action, that's when Jared Goff's at his best. When you know that Jared Goff has to drop back and pass, he doesn't have a great line to protect him in front of him, and he's not a super accurate quarterback. So he's going to throw a couple bad balls here and there. And you know what? At the end of a game, when you're in that no huddle and you're trying to come back from down a score or two, that's when those interceptions tend to happen. And that's going to be a situation that Jared Goff's going to be in probably a lot this year based on the numbers that we're looking at and the projections that everybody has. So DraftKings has this -110 to the over and the under. I like the under a lot better than I like the over a lot better than I like the under. This is one of the few that I would take the over on here. So 11.5 interceptions. Jared Goff over is minus 110 on DraftKings. So the next one we can talk about here, let's go to the running back position. Let's talk about DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is a guy who is flying up draft boards this year. And the only knock that I hear anybody making on DeAndre Swift is whether or not he's going to be able to stay healthy. And again, one of the things that I try to tell people all the time about fantasy football is I am not a doctor. I am not going to be the guy who's going to make a prediction about whether or not somebody's going to stay healthy. Just because a guy's been hurt, that doesn't necessarily always mean that a guy is injury prone. Now, sometimes it does, but for the most part, there hasn't been any statistical evidence to prove that injury prone is a real thing. Bad luck, that stuff happens. But you know what? We can't make bets. We can't make projections based on luck. All we can do is make projections on whether or not a guy is a good player. And if that guy is a good player, what kind of production can he put up if he plays in a full 17 games this year? And if we get a full 17 games out of DeAndre Swift this year, I think he could rush for over 1,000 yards. I think he could have over 1,500 yards total in rushing and receiving offense. So there's a lot of things here that we could do with a guy like with a guy like DeAndre Swift here, if he's able to stay healthy. The rushing yard number for DeAndre Swift is 800 rushing yards this year. And the over on that is paying minus 108 on FanDuel. So they actually don't project him to be over that number. The bettors and the books actually have it less than the standard minus 110 juice here, which is not really a positive thing overall. Under is paying minus 115. You can get that on DraftKings and BetMGM. Again, I think if he stays healthy, he easily clears this 850 rushing yard number. So this would be one that I'd be willing to take. If he plays in 14, 15 games this year, I think he has a good chance to average 55, 60 yards a game and get over this 850 yard number. So for me, I like the over on DeAndre Swift rushing yards. Minus 108 on FanDuel is the place to play that one. The rushing and receiving yards is actually 1,400 is the number that's out there. And again, this guy is one of the best pass catchers out of the backfield. 1,400 total rushing and receiving yards is not an easy feat for any running back to accomplish. And again, in my opinion, he's not going to get there unless he gets 900 to 1,000 yards rushing. So for me, I would rather just play the rushing yard number that we can get there. Again, you could play the over minus 108. You could play the under minus 115 on DraftKings. For rushing and receiving, DraftKings, the only place I see this number right now, it's minus 115 to the over and the under at 1,400 yards. Again, if you like the over, I think I like the over on his rushing yards better, assuming that he can stay healthy, because that's really what you're betting on here. To me, that's the better way to play this than the rushing and receiving yards. Same thing with the rushing touchdown number for him, right? Is like, I don't know how many rushing touchdowns he's going to have. He may have a couple through the air. They may decide to throw the ball down there in the red zone a little more. They may be a team that doesn't even get as many red zone opportunities. So when you have a team like that in a situation like that, I usually stay away from the touchdown numbers there. And again, you got to make sure you look at what the number is actually offered to you. A lot of times it's rushing touchdowns. And with DeAndre Swift, maybe he gets a couple rushing touchdowns, but he's also probably going to get some touchdowns through the air. So if there was a total touchdown number out there, I'd probably feel a little more confident. With the rushing touchdown number being the one that's out in the market, though, I don't really want to touch that one at all. So I'm kind of staying away from the rushing touchdown. Like I said, if you're going to play anything on Swift, I like the over 850 rushing yards, minus 108 on FanDuel, juice down a little bit. I think there's value in that number. I would have taken that even if it was minus 120. So the fact that it's being juiced down at minus 108 makes me feel like I'm getting a good discount there. So I like that. Next thing we're going to talk about here, wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown. At the end of last season, this guy was a top 10 wide receiver down the stretch the last couple of weeks of the season. Bunch of games with double-digit targets. He was finding the end zone, racking up the yardage, racking up the catches. So great guy if you play in any kind of PPR stuff here. And there's a reason why I'm mentioning this. I'm mentioning this because his catch number is a really solid catch number. So if you guys play any, season-long fantasy out here, this is a guy that I still think is slipping a little bit too far in a lot of these drafts. You could go over to ftnfantasy.com/pricing right now. Use promo code Benny. You can save 20% off on that. And you could see even some of our experts I've been arguing with are, undervaluing Amon-Ra St. Brown this year, especially in PPR, because I think this guy is going to be an absolute target monster if this season goes the way the end of last season goes. And remember, The rookie, Jamison Williams, isn't going to be playing at least the first couple weeks of the season. DJ Shark, another receiver that they brought in, new guy to the system here. So Amon-Ra St. Brown is kind of the holdover, the guy that knows the system, the guy who's already the number one target here. And he's going to be kind of a security blanket again this year for Jared Goff. So I like this guy a lot. Like I said, 78.5 is the catch number. I honestly think that number is high, so I don't want to play it, but I'm not going to play the under either. I don't think it's something that he can accomplish. You know, like I said, there were games last year where this guy was getting double-digit targets. If that's going to be the way it goes this year, he's going to end up with 150 targets this year. I don't think it's crazy to think that he could get 79 catches. Now, again, he may not average a massive amount of yards per catch because a lot of that stuff is going to be short underneath kind of routes, I think. But with that being said, I mean, 79 catches is 79 catches. If you guys are playing any season-long fantasy, there's not many other wide receivers that are in the range that Amon-Ra St. Brown is going that are going to be able to get you that 78, 80 reception kind of number. And at 80 receptions, again, the guy's probably going to end up with 800 to 1,000 yards there. He's going to score some touchdowns too because he is shifty and he can finish these plays off. I just think people are sleeping on this guy a little bit this year. So receiving yardage for him, 850 receiving yards. Again, if he's going to see this kind of volume, I'd rather play the receiving yardage over than the catch over. I feel like he's got a better chance to get over that than he does of over the catches. But I think this is going to be a big breakout season for him. So definitely want you guys to make sure he's somebody that's on your radar. The catches you can get over, over 78.5. It's minus 120 on DraftKings. So they're even juicing it up over 78.5, and they have it juiced up right now. Minus 115 on BetMGM is the best place you could play the catches. The under is minus 110 on DraftKings if you wanted to play the under 78.5 catches. The receiving yardage number, FanDuel has the best number there, 850. You could play the over at that 850 at a minus 112. The last thing I'm going to mention before we go here is going to be DJ Shark. And not that I think DJ Shark is going to come out and have a monster season here. I do think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be the wide receiver one. But there was an interesting number with DJ Shark I wanted to mention to you guys. DraftKings has him at 80-1 to be the comeback player of the year. That's like a 1.1% chance they're giving him to be the comeback player of the year. You look at Bet Rivers, you look at PointsBet, you look at Sugar House, you look at Unibet. They all have this at 33-1 or plus 3,300. So you're getting it at 80-1 on DraftKings, 33-1 other places. At 33-1, they're giving him like a 3% chance. DraftKings is giving him a 1% chance. So you're getting a massive edge there by taking the number on DraftKings. Now, again, is it something I think is very likely? No. But I do think it's more likely than 1%, probably closer to 3%, which means it's worth a bet. Now, is it worth us mortgaging the house and, taking the kids' college fund and dropping it all on, DJ Shark comeback player of the year? No, definitely not. But I do think it's worth it if you got like a $20 free bet line in there, or you want to throw $10 on them at 80-1. I think this is a very good number. I think that number is too high. So if you're going to take it, I'm not going to hate you on it. With that being said, I don't think it is the most likely outcome, but I do think it is more than a 1% chance. DJ Shark, again, this guy was a big time receiver. He's got size. He's got speed. If he's healthy when he goes out there this year, he's playing on a team that's likely to be trailing in most of their games and is going to need somebody to step up and make some plays. There is a chance that this guy could put up a 70, 75 catch season, get to 1,000 yards, get a couple touchdowns there, and be somebody who at least is in the conversation for comeback player of the year. So that's the last thing I want to mention. 80-1 on DraftKings, comeback player of the year for DJ Shark. Not that I think it's a lock and it's going to cash, but I do think that number is a little bit too high. So there is some value there. And I wanted to let everybody know that. Remember, right now, you could go over to FTN Fantasy if you're looking to get ready for those season-long fantasy football drafts. You can use promo code Benny. You'll save 20% off at ftnfantasy.com/pricing. You could go over to ftndaily.com/pricing if you're getting ready for the DraftKings, the FanDuels, the Prize Picks of the world when the season rolls around. Or you could go over to ftnbets.com/pricing if you're looking for some more information about bets. We have charts, we have graphs, we have expert analysis from some of the top minds in the industry. We have a lot of stuff that you guys can do, and not just for NFL too. Right now, MLB stuff is going on over on Daily and over on Bets. You're going to have, MMA stuff on both of those sites as well. You have tennis stuff going on in those sites. We're going to have World Cup soccer coverage pretty soon with the World Cup rolling around. So lots of things going on here over at FTN. Remember, Use promo code Benny. You can save some money off of whatever package you decide to buy on FTN Bets, FTN Daily, or FTN Fantasy. And don't forget to get that free money from our sponsor here in Sleeper. Go down to the description, sleeper.com/FTN Bets. If you sign up through that link, your first deposit up to $100, they will match it. So make sure that first deposit is $100. This way you get the most free money out of them. And then you already got the money that you need to go over and pay for that subscription to FTN Fantasy, FTN Daily, or FTN Bets. I try to help you guys out here. I can lead the horse to water. I can't make you drink. You guys got to do a little bit of that work on your own. But like I said, I'm making it as easy as I possibly can for you. And with that, we're going to wrap it up today for today's edition of the FTN Betscast here at FTN Bets, sponsored by Sleeper. Good luck, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.